Bienvenue and welcome to Baronneries, a channel where you will currently find content for the tabletop game Middara version 1.2. My name is Baron and I present you my first tier list video, and we are starting with the item upgrades. The reasons why I decided to choose these to cover first are that one, you need to find the rare monster loot card in order to process it into an item upgrade. So this rarity makes the decision all the more important. And two, the monster loot card in itself might be good, so you have to make the decision to exchange a rare good card benefiting only one hero into an item upgrade that could benefit, that could benefit everyone, but also might not, depending on your pick. And three, this is a group decision, right? So finding a common ground for which to make this type of choice can be hard when counting in the rarity of the monster loot item. I would like this tier list to ease this discussion with your friends and help you find the one everyone will be happy to have access to, at least at the beginning. These can really up your power, and for me, it's important to make the better choices as soon as you can, and that happens during the first mundane loot level scenarios. With that said, here are the two principles that guided my classification. The first is, a good offense is the best defense. Like, this is a very well-known principle that applies to most games out there. Basically, the quicker you kill your enemies, the less aggravating mechanics you have to deal with. Usually. As always, there are some exceptions, but like the defense aspect in this game is usually reached by manipulating aggro, using environment, and having just enough support abilities to help you in a pinch. The second principle, this is valid for the mundane level scenarios of this act. I have yet to reach later levels on this game, and this makes the choices that I made relevant to my experience for that part of the game. There very well might be unique items or other abilities that could benefit offense by unexpected means. For example, maybe the Sentient upgrade that gives +2 to your max health might benefit a weapon that, could deal more damage the more max HP you have. Like, really, I don't know. So have this in mind when analyzing with your astute and experienced eye the choices that I've made. I still believe, from what I've seen for now and the few item spoilers that I got for later loot levels, that it should be relevant even later on. So every tier list, of course, deals with the tiers, and these are the guidelines I use to place the upgrades in different tiers. On the S tier, these upgrades benefits any DPR builds greatly, meaning whether your hero is a weapon user or a spellcaster, it doesn't matter, you will benefit from them. Next, on tier A, these upgrades benefits weapon user or spellcasting builds greatly. So it's the same kind of potency, I should say, but it's just for one of the two archetypes. Onto tier B, they will moderately enhance one archetype of DPR builds, but they might add a great benefit to your life expectancy or to niche DPR builds. Tier C, DPR builds gets a marginal use out of these upgrades, but some niche builds or your survivability might be moderately enhanced by them. And finally, Tier D, no direct benefits to DPR builds, but these upgrades might give some boost to your survivability or to specific niche builds. With all of that in mind, let's jump in. So we're gonna start with our first upgrade. It's devastating. It's a weapon upgrade. On exhaust, you will add +2 damage of the same type of damage that you are dealing right now, and you have to add it onto an attack or when you deal damage with a spell. So that's pretty versatile. And of course, it puts it in the S tier. Just because it will benefit both DPR builds, right? As much spellcasters as weapon users. So the only thing is, it's the exhaust. That means it's only usable once per round. I guess there are exceptions where you can unexhaust maybe an upgrade eventually, but at the mundane loot level I didn't see anything like that. There's also a little other caveat about that upgrade, and it's all in the wording. It says when determining damage from an attack or dealing damage from a spell. So I think, but I'm not sure, so please correct me if I'm wrong or if you read it differently, you need to at least deal 1 point of damage for it to work. If you just barely hit your enemy, and you can't even deal 1 point of damage with your regular abilities and stuff, you can't really use Devastating to add a +2 because there is no damage types done yet. There is nothing done. It might be a little bit nitpicky, but I think the wording is pretty clear. And for that reason, it's a good upgrade, but yeah, there is a better one to be found in the S tier, my friends. Next, we're gonna go to the Dark Core upgrade. So you only have one core, so you only have to choose one of these upgrades. The Dark Core upgrade inflicts a -1 penalty to the conviction rolls of the enemies that are already affected by an effect. So this needs a little bit of setup, right? You need to inflict an effect on the enemy, and you have to cast a spell or have some kind of force effect to benefit from it, because it affects the conviction roll of your enemies. So it's a setup that, you know, it's not instantly available, and it mainly benefits spellcasters. For that very reason, I put Dark at the B tier. It really helps the spellcasters, but you need to set it up, right? You need to inflict some effects, even if it's another character that inflicts the effects. Of course, it can be a positive effect, it will be valid. So that's a good point from this. So at the start, at the mundane loot level, it's not super easy to always inflict an effect, and you have to put it on first before benefiting from it. So that's why it's a B. The Etherium upgrade is a universal upgrade. You can put it anywhere, and it's very simple. It gives you a +1 to your movement. This is good for anyone. Movement means that you can reach your enemies earlier. Movement makes you able to get out of a pinch, makes you move out of hindering terrain or difficult positions. It can be that tile that enables you to trigger a break attack and so trigger your dodge and counter combos. So for me, it's good for everyone. It can be used offensively because, you know, it's a way of, you could say, increasing your SOI by 1 because you're nearer, you can get closer earlier. And also it makes you reach your enemies quicker when you have melee weapons or ranged weapons even. So I would put it at the B tier, and I would put it before Dark, simply because it's not only spellcasters that benefit from it, also your builds that use weapons. Then we go to Bulky. Simple upgrade, an armor upgrade. It's a +1 to your armor value, so it reduces your damage received from physical attacks by 1. And it also, and this is the caveat, it will inflict on you the tag Heavy. Heavy reduces your movement by 1 and reduces your agility by 1. So it's not a super nice tag to have. Basically, the only character that really could have a good use for it is Rook, because he ignores the first instance of Heavy. So if it's the only instance of Heavy that you have, you will benefit from that +1 to armor. And this is especially good for the Courage Stifle builds. All of the Courage Stifle builds will benefit from having more armor. And this, if you use it on Rook, which is what I would do personally, will free up what kind of weapon that you have. So you will always use your shields because it gives you an armor, but you don't need to have a Warhammer to activate that other +1 to armor. You can use this and have whatever you want in your other hand to benefit from, I don't know, maybe a unique item, from range, from a higher spellcasting die. So all these are good options for you to get bulky instead of having your Warhammer or another shield in your hand. And for that reason, I put it at C, because it's good for a niche build, which is the Courage Stifler, which is a great build, by the way. So I would definitely like to get this eventually, but I will never enforce my teammates to choose this upgrade when you've just begun the game. So Masterwork gives you a +1 on your 2-hit roll for any kind of weapons. So ranged and melee weapons. Of course, this really only affects DPR builds that are focused on weapons, so it already cannot be put in the S tier. Maybe A tier. Effectively, I'm going to put it in A tier. It's very simple, +1 to hit. If you don't hit, there's no damage passing through. So that's it, that's all. We go next to a core upgrade called Glowing. Glowing increases by +1 your SOI if you have no other items, no other gear in your character's sheet that also increases your SOI by 1. Glowing is nice to have, and it kind of benefits everyone, because even though spellcasters are mostly those that will benefit from it, when you want to use consumables that affect your SOI, they will be able to be used at a bigger range. So it's not only spellcasters. If you find an item, a consumable that uses SOI to determine range, this will help you. So it helps with healing, with support, and it also helps, of course, with your spellcasters and inflicting damage. For that very reason, I put it on the B tier and before the dark upgrade, because it's easier to set up. I mean, there's no setup to have. Like, it's just, you have a +1 on SOI. We move on to another universal upgrade. This is Sentient, a very simple one, +2 to health. So unless there's a special item that maybe deals more damage the more health that you have, maybe that would be a good combo for a niche build, but for that reason I need to put it in C tier. And bulky will come after, of course. Sentient is a little bit better than bulky. Everyone will be happy at least, so it's a good thing for this upgrade. So we move on to Reinforced, which is a armor upgrade. This on exhaust reduces the physical damage that you are dealt from melee attacks only by 2. So, you know, it's a good protection. It doesn't count as armor, so any enemies that inflicts armor piercing, I have the Gévaudan's in mind, they will not affect this part of your build. So I would put this in the C tier before bulky, but after Sentient, because Sentient applies to spells and physical damage and ranged attacks, whereas Reinforced is only on exhaust and only on melee attacks. Otherworldly is a weapon upgrade that only has a passive, so it's always valid. It has 2 sides to it. The first one is that when you determine the force of your spell, you can use 1 shield and 1 book symbol to increase your force by +1. What it means is that on average you will have +0.5 to your force. Why +0.5? Simply only the 3 higher of the numbers on your dice will have a book and a shield. So it's only for those 3 values that you will get that +1. So half of the time that you will roll your spellcasting die, you will get a +1 to your force value. So this is good for spellcasters, having more chance to inflict your spell upon your enemies, so that's pretty good. The other part is a follow-up that is added to any attack that you make with a weapon. It enables you to use 2 book symbols to increase your damage by +2. So this is super good. When you attack, most of the time with weapons, with bows, with Warhammer, with swords, whatever, you will not be able to deal magic damage unless you have a tome in your offhand, or a talisman, or if you wield a staff. The thing is, magic damage is super nice because it bypasses armor. So heavy armored enemies like Earth Loas or the Animates will be susceptible to bigger amounts of damage because of this. Again, unless you have a talisman, a book, a staff, or a wand, books are useless to you when you make attacks. Well, this makes shields and books useful for you. And it makes your empower die even better because now every result except for the skull will give you something. You will always have either 2 shields or 2 books somewhere in some of your values. For me, this is the best upgrade that you can have, and it's better than devastating. So it really is the first upgrade that I would highly suggest your team to get. Everyone will be happy, everyone will have a bonus from this, everyone is fine, alright? We move on to Shimmering. On Exhaust, your attack gains a follow-up that if you use the star symbol, you heal by 2. So from the get-go, you can see that this is not super good. Shimmering has an FU, so it only benefits weapon users. Second, it's an Exhaust, so it's only once per turn. And third, you need to roll a star. So it's 1 chance on 6. Let me tell you something, you will want to use your stars for probably anything else than healing. Yes, healing is fine. Yes, healing will make you live longer. But I swear, the damage that you will deal with your star will probably benefit you more than that 2 HP heal. There are builds that I think would benefit a little bit from this. Support builds, I'm thinking about a certain relic that makes you bank in superfluous healing into energy tokens and blah blah blah. So I guess it would be good for that build, but I mean, it's super niche and you know, like it cannot be anything higher than a D. So we move on to Enchanted. Enchanted is another universal upgrade, the last one, there's only 3 of them. It's on Exhaust, you get a free reroll of your conviction check. This is good defense. I mean, rerolling is better than just having a +1. I would put it below Sentient. At this point, the C tier, like I said, moderately helpful upgrades to support and niche builds, and I think Enchanted is a moderately useful upgrade indeed. We will move on to Elegant. Elegant as an armor upgrade enables you on Exhaust to have a free counter. This is good for anyone. A counter can be used even with a talisman and a tome, and it's free. It's a chance to have more damage, so I would definitely put this in B tier and Overdark because it happens more often, in my opinion, from what I've seen for now. It's a tie. I would put it over just because a counter is an attack that is not planned most of the time, unless it's your build, you know. It's just more damage, so that's why I put it Overdark. Imbued is the last weapon upgrade of the lot. I think you can pretty much guess easily that it's going to be an A because it only affects spellcasters. And what it does basically is that it will increase your force for your spells by +1. This is on Exhaust, so it's only once a turn. So it's pretty much the spellcasting equivalent to Masterwork, and the only reason why it's below Masterwork is simply because you can only cast spell on your turn, and Masterwork will be able to enhance counterattacks, break attacks, any kind of attacks. It's just better because there are more opportunities to make use of Masterwork, whereas Imbued will only be useful on your turn when you cast your spell. We are down at the 2 last upgrades. So we've got Refined, the last armor upgrade. On Exhaust, removes a single star symbol from attack that was rolled against you. Again, conditions. It's on Exhaust. You need to get an attack, not a spell, an attack. And it only removes 1 star symbol. So again, it's 1 chance on 6 per die to be useful. The thing is that I actually like it much better than Shimmering because it's not a follow-up. It will probably prevent as much damage as Shimmering, but the star symbol that your enemy has is only more damage. So if you can remove it to heal, I think that's a good thing to have. And I think it's better than Shimmering because you don't want to replace your stars for healing. You want to use them for damage. So that would place Refined just over Shimmering for that reason. It's still a D tier, but it's better than Shimmering for the reason that I mentioned before. And finally, we go to Scrying. It's really similar to Enchanted. The only thing is that it's a core upgrade instead of a universal upgrade, and instead of re-rolling your conviction check, it simply adds a +1 to the roll on exhaust. More limited on where you can put it on, and for that reason it's slightly worse than Enchanted, and that's why it will earn itself a place on the C tier list. Well, this wraps up this first tier list video. I really hope you appreciated it. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and press the notification button. And thanks again, I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!